The air splintered, ripped apart by a series of sharp, violent cracks. A body, heavy and inert, crumpled to the pavement, followed swiftly by another. Shouts erupted, a cacophony of terror and confusion mingling with the metallic echo of gunfire that seemed to reverberate endlessly off the brick facades. Chaos unfurled in an instant, a sudden, brutal punctuation mark on what had been a perfectly ordinary Monday. March 30th, 1981, Washington, D.C., a date etched into history, though at that very moment, the world moved with the predictable rhythm of a spring morning. Ronald Reagan, the charismatic 40th President of the United States, had started his day with the usual blend of optimism and a packed schedule. His easy smile, his folksy charm had endeared him to millions, and he carried the hopes of a nation on his broad shoulders. He was a man accustomed to crowds, to public adoration, and to the constant watchful presence of his Secret Service detail. Among those dedicated protectors was Jerry Parr, a seasoned agent whose career had spanned decades and countless high-stakes situations. Parr was a man of routine, his dedication to his duty absolute, almost spiritual. Every morning brought the same meticulous preparations, the same mental checklists, the same quiet resolve to safeguard the president at all costs. His life was a testament to vigilance, a constant state of readiness for the unimaginable. Today, his morning had been no different. A crisp D.C., air accompanying the motorcade as it transported the president to his engagement. The destination was the Washington Hilton Hotel, a familiar venue for political speeches and gatherings. President Reagan was scheduled to address a conference of building trades unions, a seemingly innocuous event, a routine stop on the presidential circuit. Security preparations were, as always, extensive. Agents meticulously swept the area, reviewed potential threats, and positioned themselves strategically. There were no overt alarms, no specific intelligence pointing to danger, yet an undercurrent of unease always accompanied such public appearances. It was the nature of the job, a quiet hum of high alert beneath the surface of normalcy. Outside the Hilton, a familiar scene unfolded. Media vans jostled for position, their cameras poised. Onlookers, a mix of curious citizens and ardent supporters, lined the cordoned-off pathways, hoping for a glimpse of the president. Interspersed among them were a handful of protesters, their signs held aloft, their voices a low murmur against the general buzz of anticipation. It was a typical American public gathering, a democratic tableau. But within that crowd, a different kind of presence lurked. John Hinckley Jr., a troubled young man consumed by a dark, delusional obsession, stood waiting. His eyes, devoid of warmth, scanned the hotel entrance with an unsettling intensity. He was just another face in the throng, yet his presence was a chilling anomaly, a predator patiently observing his prey. No one noticed the tremor in his hands, the frantic pulse beneath his skin, or the cold resolve hardening his features. Inside, the president's speech concluded to warm applause. Reagan, ever the showman, lingered briefly, shaking hands, basking in the energy of the room. Then, with a final wave, he began his exit, moving towards the waiting limousine. The doors of the Hilton swung open, and he stepped out into the crisp afternoon air, a broad smile gracing his face as he waved to the gathering crowd. The motorcade idled, its engines a low thrumming sound, ready to whisk him away. The atmosphere, moments before filled with the easy rhythm of a public appearance, suddenly shifted. A subtle, almost imperceptible tension settled, a heavy quiet before the storm. The world held its breath, though it did not yet know why. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The subtle tension solidified into a terrifying reality as the first shot rang out, a sharp, metallic crack that seemed to rip through the very fabric of the afternoon. It was an impossible sound, shattering the illusion of safety that always enveloped the presidential motorcade. In that infinitesimal fraction of a second, Agent Jerry Parr's training took over, an instinct honed by years of anticipation and vigilance. His eyes, already scanning the crowd, registered the flash, the puff of smoke, and without conscious thought his body moved. He lunged. A human shield propelled by an unwavering dedication to his charge, shoving President Reagan with considerable force towards the open door of the waiting limousine. Before the president could even fully register the sudden, violent push, Parr was already propelling him inside, his body a barrier against the unseen threat. The world outside erupted into a horrifying symphony of chaos. 3 more shots followed in rapid succession, each report a distinct, terrifying echo that seemed to hang in the air. The sounds were punctuated by screams, by guttural cries of pain as bodies around the limousine began to fall. Press Secretary James Brady, who had been walking just yards from the presidential vehicle, collapsed, a sickening thud against the pavement. D.C. Police Officer Thomas Delahanty, his hand instinctively going to his side, crumpled to the ground. Secret Service Agent Timothy McCarthy, his quick thinking evident even in the pandemonium, had instinctively turned, spreading his body to shield the president, and now he too lay wounded, a testament to his selfless courage. Panic became a palpable entity, swirling around the scene like an invisible, suffocating gas. People scattered, their faces contorted in terror, their movements frantic and uncoordinated. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and the raw, animalistic fear that grips humanity in the face of sudden, indiscriminate violence. Amidst the pandemonium, a struggle ensued. Agents, their faces grim with determination, moved swiftly, converging on the source of the gunfire. They wrestled a figure to the ground, a young man whose eyes held a disturbing, detached intensity. John Hinckley Jr., the architect of this horrifying tableau, was quickly subdued, his weapon clattering harmlessly away on the asphalt. Inside the armored sanctuary of the limousine, Parr's actions were swift and decisive. He pulled the president down onto the back seat, covering him with his own body, his senses hyper-alert. "Take off! Take off!" he barked at the driver, his voice a low growl of command. The limousine lurched forward, tires squealing as it accelerated away from the scene of the carnage. Parr quickly scanned Reagan for any visible injuries. The president seemed shaken, his face pale. But there was no apparent blood, no obvious bullet holes in his suit. "Are you hurt, Mr. President?" Parr asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Reagan, still dazed, responded with a characteristic quip. "No, I don't think so. I just think I got bumped." The initial plan, ingrained through countless drills, was to return to the heavily fortified White House. It was the safest, most logical destination. But as the limousine sped through the streets of Washington, a subtle shift began to occur. Reagan coughed, a dry, almost involuntary sound that seemed to catch in his throat. Then he coughed again, a little more forcefully, a fleeting expression of discomfort crossing his features. Parr, ever vigilant, noticed the change. There was no visible wound, but the president's color seemed to be fading, a faint pallor settling over his face. The initial relief that had washed over Parr began to recede, replaced by a growing unease, a gnawing suspicion that something was not quite right. The destination, once so certain, now hung precariously in the balance, a silent question mark against the backdrop of the city racing by. The initial plan, ingrained through countless drills, was to return to the heavily fortified White House. It was the safest, most logical destination. But as the limousine sped through the streets of Washington, a subtle shift began to occur. Reagan coughed, a dry, almost involuntary sound that seemed to catch in his throat. Then he coughed again, a little more forcefully, a fleeting expression of discomfort crossing his features. Parr, ever vigilant, noticed the change. There was no visible wound, but the president's color seemed to be fading, a faint pallor settling over his face. The initial relief that had washed over Parr began to recede, replaced by a growing unease, a gnawing suspicion that something was not quite right. The destination, once so certain, now hung precariously in the balance, a silent question mark against the backdrop of the city racing by. Reagan's discomfort escalated. He winced, a flicker of genuine pain crossing his face, and reached a hand to his left side, just beneath his armpit. "Jerry, I think I've been cut," he murmured, his voice weaker now, tinged with a new vulnerability. Parr's stomach clenched. A cut. That didn't make sense. He had seen no blood, no obvious entry wound, but the president's worsening condition was undeniable. The pale complexion, the labored breathing, the undeniable pain etched on his face, these were not the signs of a mere bump. An internal injury, a silent, insidious threat, suddenly became a terrifying possibility. The White House, with its limited medical facilities, was no longer the appropriate destination. Time was critical, every second a precious commodity. In that moment, a crucial, life-saving decision was made. Parr, without hesitation, pivoted. His voice, though calm, carried an undeniable urgency as he barked new orders to the driver. "George Washington University Hospital now!" The limousine swerved, its siren wailing as it changed course, abandoning the direct route to the White House for the closest trauma center. The urgency in Parr's tone, the sudden change in direction, conveyed the gravity of the situation to everyone inside the vehicle. The president was not merely shaken, he was in serious trouble. The arrival at George Washington University Hospital was nothing short of chaotic. The emergency room staff, utterly unprepared for the arrival of the President of the United States under such dire circumstances, scrambled into action. There had been no advance warning, no time to prepare. Secret Service agents, their faces grim, burst through the doors, shouting demands for immediate medical attention. The usual orderly routine of the emergency department shattered into a maelstrom of activity. Doctors and nurses, initially bewildered, quickly assessed the situation, their professional training kicking in despite the shock of seeing the president wheeled in on a gurney. It didn't take long for the medical team to realize the severity of Reagan's injury. As they cut away his suit, a small, unassuming bullet wound was discovered just below his left armpit. The bullet, it turned out, had ricocheted off the limousine's armored side, entering his chest and collapsing his lung, coming perilously close to his heart. The initial diagnosis, a cut, was a grave understatement. This was a life-threatening injury requiring immediate, invasive surgery. The atmosphere in the ER, already tense, became charged with a palpable sense of dread and grim determination. As the frantic scene unfolded within the hospital, news of the assassination attempt exploded across the globe. Television networks interrupted regular programming with breaking reports, their anchors struggling to convey the enormity of the event as details trickled in. Global shock and fear rippled through populations. World leaders, stunned, issued statements of condemnation and concern. The stability of the free world seemed to hang in the balance, its future suddenly uncertain. Back home, the immediate uncertainty of Reagan's survival cast a dark shadow over the nation. The airwaves buzzed with speculation, fear, and the desperate hope for positive news. At the White House, First Lady Nancy Reagan received the terrifying call. Her husband had been shot. Her world instantly fractured. A frantic, agonizing rush to the hospital ensued, her mind a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. Arriving at George Washington University Hospital, her face was etched with anguish, her eyes wide with unshed tears. She was quickly ushered to a private waiting area where she faced the agonizing wait for news, the fate of her beloved husband hanging precariously in the balance. The operating room doors, a stark, unforgiving barrier, closed behind President Reagan, sealing him away from the outside world, his survival resting in the skilled hands of the surgical team. The nation, and indeed the world, held its breath, praying for a miracle as the clock ticked relentlessly onward. As the world grappled with the terrifying reality of the attack, the focus inevitably shifted, not only to the president's survival, but also to the man who had pulled the trigger. John Hinckley Jr., the assailant, was quickly apprehended amidst the chaos, his face a mixture of bewilderment and a chilling detachment. The initial shock gave way to a desperate need to understand the motive behind such a heinous act. Who was this young man, and what drove him to attempt to assassinate the President of the United States? Hinckley's background painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual, adrift in a world he struggled to comprehend. Born into an affluent family, his early life seemed unremarkable. Yet beneath the surface, a profound sense of isolation and a desperate yearning for recognition festered. He had drifted through various colleges, never truly finding his footing, his academic pursuits often overshadowed by an increasing withdrawal from reality. His parents, concerned by his erratic behavior, had sought professional help, but Hinckley resisted, retreating further into his own convoluted psychological landscape. The catalyst for his descent into violent delusion was a pervasive obsession with the actress Jodie Foster. This fixation had begun after he repeatedly watched the 1976 Martin Scorsese film Taxi Driver, a gritty portrayal of a lonely, alienated man who plans to assassinate a presidential candidate to impress a young prostitute. Hinckley, in his fractured mind, began to identify profoundly with the film's protagonist, Travis Bickle. He saw Foster, who played the child prostitute Iris in the movie, as his muse, his salvation, and the ultimate object of his twisted affection. His delusional motives were chillingly simple. He believed that by replicating Bickle's actions, by carrying out a shocking act of violence against a prominent public figure, he would somehow gain Foster's attention and affection. He wrote numerous letters to her, expressing his warped love and detailing his plans, convinced that this grand gesture would finally make him worthy in her eyes. The assassination attempt was not a political statement, nor was it born of any animosity towards Ronald Reagan himself. It was a desperate, misguided plea for love and recognition from an actress who was, to him, a symbol of everything he lacked. This wasn't Hinckley's first foray into stalking and dangerous behavior. His obsession with Foster had led him to Yale University, where she was a student, attempting to establish contact. He had even stalked President Jimmy Carter in 1980, hoping to commit a similar act to impress Foster, but was arrested for a firearms violation before he could carry out his plan. Undeterred, and with a chilling persistence, he acquired the .22 caliber Rohm RG-14 revolver that would ultimately be used in the attack. He purchased it from a pawn shop, a seemingly innocuous transaction that would unleash a torrent of violence. His mental state was clearly one of profound disassociation from reality. Psychologists and psychiatrists would later delve into the depths of his mind, revealing a complex web of narcissism, schizophrenia, and severe depression. He lived in a world constructed by his own delusions, where the lines between fantasy and reality blurred, and where the lives of others were merely props in his self-scripted drama. The psychological aspects of his actions were central to understanding the tragedy, but offered little comfort to a shocked nation. Public reaction to Hinckley was one of overwhelming outrage and confusion. How could a young man from a seemingly stable background commit such an act? The initial thirst for vengeance quickly intertwined with a desperate search for answers. The FBI immediately launched an intensive investigation, scrutinizing every aspect of his life, his past, and his connections. They delved into his journals, his letters, and his movements, attempting to piece together the puzzle of his motivations. The lingering question, whispered in hushed tones across the nation, was whether he had acted alone, or if a larger conspiracy lay hidden beneath the surface of his disturbed psyche. The possibility of other accomplices, other threats lurking in the shadows, added another layer of suspense to an already terrifying national crisis. With Hinckley apprehended and the initial shock subsiding, the nation's focus remained fixed on George Washington University Hospital. Inside, a relentless drama unfolded as the medical team fought for President Reagan's life. Updates, often vague and carefully worded, trickled out to the anxious public, describing the critical nature of the surgery. The bullet, a .22 caliber slug, had entered just under his left arm, ricocheted off a rib, and lodged itself about an inch from his heart. It was a perilous journey, a hair's breadth from instantly fatal. Surgeons worked with precision, their faces grim under the bright operating room lights, knowing the eyes of the world were metaphorically peering over their shoulders. Every incision, every stitch, carried the weight of national and international stability. In Washington, a temporary political vacuum emerged. While Vice President George H.W. Bush was quickly rerouted from Texas and was en route to the Capitol, the immediate hours after the shooting were marked by uncertainty at the highest levels of government. Cabinet members huddled, protocols were reviewed, and contingency plans were discreetly discussed. The machinery of state, designed for continuity, was tested by the sudden fragility of its leader. The global response continued to pour in, a testament to Reagan's standing on the world stage. Condemnations of the attack arrived from allies and adversaries alike, underscoring the universal revulsion at such an act of violence against a head of state. Messages of support and prayers flooded diplomatic channels, reflecting a shared sense of vulnerability and concern. Outside the hospital, a spontaneous public vigil began to form. People, drawn by a mixture of fear, patriotism, and shared humanity, gathered silently, their faces etched with worry. Candles flickered in the encroaching dusk, impromptu signs bearing messages of hope and recovery appeared, and hushed prayers were offered. It was a tangible outpouring of national anxiety and solidarity, a collective holding of breath for the leader they had just elected. The media frenzy outside the hospital gates reached unprecedented levels. Satellite trucks crowded the streets. Anchors reported live, their voices hushed, providing non-stop coverage. Speculation ran rampant. Analysts offered endless commentary, and every scrap of information, no matter how small, was dissected and broadcast, feeding the public's insatiable need for news. The intricate details of the bullet's journey within Reagan's body became a focal point of medical reports. It was a testament to both sheer luck and the surgeon's skill that the damage was not more catastrophic. The bullet had caused significant internal bleeding, collapsing a lung, but crucially, it had not pierced the heart itself. The margin of error had been infinitesimal. As the hours stretched on, a surprising element began to emerge from the operating room: Reagan's own resilience and famous humor. Even as he lay on the gurney, struggling for breath, he reportedly quipped to his wife, Nancy, "Honey, I forgot to duck." Later, to the surgeons, he famously remarked, "I hope you're all Republicans." This characteristic wit, even in the face of death, offered a much-needed spark of light in the overwhelming darkness, providing a glimpse into the man's indomitable spirit. Finally, after hours of agonizing waiting, the first sign of hope arrived. The surgery was declared successful. Doctors emerged, their exhaustion evident, but their pronouncements carried a cautious optimism. President Reagan was out of immediate danger, stable and recovering in intensive care. The news, though carefully qualified, swept through the hospital, the vigil outside, and across the nation like a wave of profound relief. Yet, as the immediate crisis receded, a new set of questions began to surface. The long road to recovery lay ahead, and the medical team could not yet fully assess the long-term impact of the wound on a man of his age or on his presidency. The nation had exhaled, but the future still held an undeniable, lingering uncertainty. With a collective sigh of national relief, the doctor's pronouncement of successful surgery brought a moment of respite, yet the story of that fateful day was far from singular. While the world focused on President Reagan's recovery, the quiet heroism of Jerry Parr, the seasoned Secret Service agent who had made the split-second decision that saved the president's life, began to resonate. Parr himself, however, remained characteristically humble, deflecting any praise that came his way. For him, it was not heroism, but simply duty, a deeply ingrained response honed by years of rigorous training and an unwavering commitment to his oath. The weight of responsibility resting on the shoulders of Secret Service agents like Parr was immense, often unseen until a crisis erupted. Their lives were dedicated to being the human shield, the last line of defense for the nation's leaders. Every day was a calculation of risks, a constant vigilance against the unimaginable. Parr understood this implicitly. He had trained for every conceivable scenario, rehearsing reactions until they became instinctual. That day, when the bullets began to fly, that instinct had taken over, overriding conscious thought, propelling him into action without hesitation. The what-if lingered, a chilling thought that haunted many who had witnessed the event or followed it closely. What if Parr had paused for even a fraction of a second? What if he had hesitated, searching for an external wound, or waited for orders? The trajectory of history, already irrevocably altered, might have veered into an even darker, more tragic direction. The bullet that struck Reagan, so perilously close to his heart, would almost certainly have been fatal without Parr's immediate and forceful shove into the presidential limousine. It was a testament to the meticulous, often thankless training that Secret Service agents endured. They were not merely bodyguards, they were highly skilled professionals, Drilled to perfection, their minds and bodies conditioned for extreme pressure. Their training encompassed everything from defensive driving and tactical maneuvers to emergency medical procedures and split-second threat assessments. They were taught to anticipate, to react, and above all, to protect. The events of March 30th, 1981 undeniably impacted Jerry Parr's life. While he remained steadfast in his belief that he was merely doing his job, the world saw him differently. He became, for many, the embodiment of quiet courage, a man who, when confronted with ultimate danger, performed his duty flawlessly. The public recognition, while never sought, was a quiet acknowledgement of his bravery. He received accolades and commendations, but perhaps the most profound impact was the internal understanding of the critical role he played in a moment of national peril. It solidified his commitment, deepened his sense of purpose, and perhaps subtly altered his perspective on the fragility of life and leadership. The bond between a president and his Secret Service detail was, and remains, a unique and profound one. These agents spent more time in close proximity to the president than almost anyone else, becoming silent observers, trusted protectors, and, in moments of crisis, saviors. They saw the human side of the office, the vulnerabilities beneath the powerful facade. For Jerry Parr, that bond with Ronald Reagan was forged in fire, a silent understanding born from shared danger and a life saved. Reagan himself, upon recovery, expressed immense gratitude for Parr's actions, a sentiment that transcended mere formality. Yet, beyond the immediate relief and the quiet recognition of heroism, the sheer trauma of the event left its indelible mark. The lasting psychological toll on all involved was undeniable. For Parr and his colleagues, the memory of those gunshots, the chaos, and the desperate race to the hospital would forever be etched into their minds. Even for those whose bodies were unharmed, the mental landscape was scarred, a constant reminder of how close they had come to losing their president, and how quickly life could change. The suspense of the moment may have passed, but the echoes of betrayal and the profound sense of vulnerability lingered for years to come. The echoes of betrayal, though primarily focused on the president, resonated far beyond the confines of his immediate detail. While Ronald Reagan's recovery captivated the nation, the stories of the other victims, equally devastating, began to unfold. James Brady, the jovial press secretary, faced the most arduous journey. The bullet that struck him in the head left him with catastrophic injuries, forever altering the course of his life. His recovery was a testament to sheer willpower and the tireless dedication of his wife, Sarah. He endured multiple surgeries, extensive physical therapy, and lived with permanent disabilities, including partial paralysis and speech impairment. His ordeal served as a stark human reminder of the indiscriminate violence unleashed by Hinckley. Brady's personal tragedy, however, transformed into a powerful legacy. From his wheelchair, enduring constant pain and frustration, he became an unwavering advocate for gun control. The Brady Bill, named in his honor, mandated federal background checks for firearm purchases, a landmark piece of legislation that forever changed gun laws in the United States. His transformation from a political operative to a passionate crusader for safety captivated the public, offering a glimmer of redemption amidst the senseless violence. As Brady fought for his life, and then for a cause, John Hinckley Jr. faced the legal system. His trial, which began in 1982, became a national spectacle, delving into the murky waters of mental illness and criminal responsibility. The defense argued that Hinckley was not guilty by reason of insanity, presenting a detailed psychiatric profile that painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual consumed by delusions. His obsession with Jodie Foster, his warped understanding of reality, and his inability to distinguish right from wrong were central to their argument. The prosecution, conversely, sought to portray him as a calculating individual, fully aware of his actions and their consequences. They argued that his planning, his acquisition of the weapon, and his conscious decision to target the president demonstrated a capacity for criminal intent. The nation watched, divided and perplexed, as mental health experts clashed on the stand, each offering their interpretation of Hinckley's fractured psyche. The verdict, delivered in June 1982, sent shockwaves across the country, not guilty by reason of insanity. The decision ignited a furious public outcry, sparking widespread anger and a heated debate over the efficacy and fairness of the legal system, particularly the insanity defense. Many felt that justice had not been served, that Hinckley had escaped accountability for his horrific actions. The verdict fueled a perception that the system was flawed, allowing dangerous individuals to evade punishment. Following the verdict, Hinckley was institutionalized at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, a psychiatric facility in Washington, D.C. His life, once characterized by aimless wandering and delusional fantasies, was now confined within institutional walls, marked by therapy sessions, medication, and periodic reviews of his mental state. For decades, he remained there, a symbol of the complex interplay between mental illness and violence, his name forever linked to the assassination attempt. The impact of Hinckley's actions extended far beyond his own confinement, deeply affecting his family. His parents and siblings lived under the shadow of his infamy, grappling with a profound sense of shame, guilt, and sorrow. They had tried to help him, to seek treatment for his escalating mental health issues, but their efforts had ultimately failed to prevent the tragedy. Their struggle was a private anguish, played out against the backdrop of national condemnation, highlighting the devastating ripple effects of such an act on innocent lives. Meanwhile, Ronald Reagan, with remarkable resilience, made a steady and strong recovery. His return to the Oval Office was met with widespread admiration, his humor and fortitude during the ordeal bolstering his image as a strong and capable leader. He resumed his presidential duties with vigor, seemingly undeterred by the near-fatal incident. His experience, however, left an enduring mark, a constant reminder of the ever-present threats faced by those in power. Yet, even as Reagan steered the country forward and Hinckley remained institutionalized, the enduring questions about justice, mental illness, and accountability continued to echo across the nation. The traumatic event had forced a national confrontation with uncomfortable truths, leaving a legacy of debate and introspection that would persist for decades to come. The scars of March 30th, 1981 ran deep, shaping public discourse and personal destinies in ways that were still unfolding. The traumatic events of March 30th, 1981 left an indelible mark on the nation, sparking immediate and far-reaching changes, particularly concerning presidential security. The Secret Service, already known for its meticulous planning and unwavering dedication, underwent a rigorous review of its protocols. Enhancements were swiftly implemented, ranging from more sophisticated threat assessment techniques to improved protective formations and advanced communication systems. The incident underscored the critical importance of split-second decision-making, validating the intense training regimen that agents like Jerry Parr endured. Security perimeters around the president became even more stringent, and the balance between presidential accessibility and safety was recalibrated, creating a new standard for protecting the nation's highest office. Beyond the immediate security measures, the shooting reignited the perennial and fiercely debated topic of gun control in America. James Brady's courageous advocacy, born from his own suffering, gave a powerful human face to the movement. The "not guilty by reason of insanity" verdict for John Hinckley Jr., coupled with the devastating injuries sustained by Brady and others, fueled public demand for stricter gun laws. While the legislative battles would be long and arduous, the seeds for future reforms were sown in the aftermath of that chaotic day. The national conversation shifted, forcing a deeper examination of firearm accessibility and the potential consequences of unchecked gun violence. For Ronald Reagan, the assassination attempt, paradoxically, strengthened his presidency. His remarkable recovery, his unwavering humor even on the brink of death, and his swift return to the Oval Office cemented his image as a resilient and courageous leader. He emerged from the crisis with an almost mythical aura, often referred to as the Teflon president, a leader to whom setbacks and criticisms simply did not stick. This brush with mortality resonated deeply with the American public, fostering a profound sense of admiration and sympathy that bolstered his popularity and political capital. His ability to project strength and calm in the face of adversity became a defining characteristic of his time in office, shaping public perception and influencing his political agenda. The human element of the tragedy, however, extended far beyond the political narrative. For the families of James Brady, Thomas Delahanty, and Timothy McCarthy, the physical and emotional scars were profound and lasting. They lived with the daily reminders of the violence, their lives irrevocably altered. The Secret Service agents involved, particularly Jerry Parr, carried the weight of their actions and the memory of the near loss of their president. Their stoicism often masked the deep emotional toll, a quiet burden of responsibility and vigilance that never truly faded. The legacy of courage, however, shone brightly through the darkness. Jerry Parr's instantaneous decision to divert the limousine to George Washington University Hospital was hailed as a singular act of heroism, a testament to his training, instinct, and unwavering dedication. His quick thinking undoubtedly saved Ronald Reagan's life, a moment that underscored the immense power of a single individual's actions in shaping history. It became a powerful example of the profound impact one person could have in a moment of crisis, a story told and retold as a beacon of selfless service. The 1981 assassination attempt served as a stark, unforgettable reminder of the fragility of leadership and the constant vigilance required to protect those who lead. It exposed the vulnerabilities inherent in a democratic society, where leaders must remain accessible to the people they serve, yet also highlighted the ever-present threat of those who would seek to disrupt or destroy that order. The event forced a national reckoning with mental illness, gun violence, and the demands of presidential security, leaving a complex and enduring legacy. Ultimately, the events of March 30, 1981, became a pivotal moment in American history. It was a day etched into the collective memory, not just for the violence that transpired, but for the resilience, courage, and humanity that emerged from the chaos. It transformed lives, reshaped national debates, and forever altered the landscape of presidential protection, serving as a powerful, somber lesson in the unpredictable nature of fate and the profound impact of a single fateful decision.
Subscribe to the American Vault. Turn on the notifications, because in a world of shadows, the only thing more dangerous than the truth is not knowing it at all. See you in the next file.